All right, guys. Good morning. Good morning. Hope you guys are doing good today. We got PCE inflation data coming live at 8:30 Eastern Standard Time. This is the first real update to inflation that we've seen from the really bad PPI inflation report we got a couple weeks ago. That the first real update that honestly scared markets a pretty significant amount when it happened. Expectations today, core PCE is expected at 0.3% month over month. Headline PCE is expected at 0.2% month over month, I think. Year over year, core PCE expected at 2.9%. Headline expected at 2.6%. We've had some news that's come out this morning. If you look at stocks, they're kind of down today. We had some news that came out early this morning regarding Nvidia. And the news was, let me find it. I saw it earlier. Nvidia shares are down because the Wall Street Journal reported that Alibaba is developing new AI chips to help fill the Nvidia void, is what they basically said. So again, Nvidia shares are down over 1% because Alibaba, according to the Wall Street Journal, is developing new AI chips to help fill the Nvidia void. That is what's going on this morning in pre-market. Chip stocks are down. Nvidia down to 178. Google down to 209s. Apple is, I think, mostly flat. Apple's slightly down on the day as well, but a lot of this stuff pushed up yesterday. But we're somewhere in the middle right now, I would say. But yeah. Yeah, same as DeepSeek. Although DeepSeek, when DeepSeek came out saying they found more efficient ways to use AI systems, the market dropped much more from that. This is a small time drop, I would say. It's not the biggest drop. It's like 1%. But we're definitely bearish so far this morning. That's definitely going on. Again, futures are down. Fed's preferred inflation gauge drops could sway the probability of a September rate cut. NASDAQ futures are under pressure. Tech sector sensitivity, again, from the news we covered. Europe and Asia are down a little bit or quiet ahead of inflation data. So Governor Cook is fighting against her removal. She basically wants to, I saw this earlier as well regarding Cook. Let me find it. Yeah, she's basically fighting against it, though. That's news that's been coming out for the last few days. According to a Reuters poll, crude is seen averaging $64.65 a barrel in 2025. Previous was $64.61, so a little bit over what they had in July. Brent seen averaging $67.65 in 2025. We also had news that China is considering boosting their Russian gas imports, according to an existing power of the via existing power of the Suburban pipeline. One by around 6 BCM a year, according to Reuters. And some other news, Pepsi company is said to be boosting their stake in Celsius in a $585 million deal. So Celsius might be running up today. Yeah, look at Celsius pop. So Celsius is up from 60 to 66 after Pepsi is said to boost their stake in them in an almost $600 million deal, according to Bloomberg. News came out much earlier, about an hour and a half ago. Again, Marvel matched Q2 estimates, issued light Q3 outlook. Dell strong Q2 but softer than expected AI server forecast. Again, Nvidia is down on the Alibaba chip news. Affirm back in profits, strong revenue growth up 15%. Ulta raised outlook, beat earnings. Autodesk Q2 beat and raised outlook. Alibaba beat estimates, unveiled a new AI chip. You can see Baba here is up significantly in pre-market today. It's up to 124s right now. So we got some stuff moving here. Let's do a poll. I don't think I've done one yet. Are you bullish or bearish on today's PCE inflation report? Or actually, let's do a different one. We're gonna say, does today's core PCE, we'll use core as our gauge, go up higher or lower than the, what is it, 0.3% expected. Month over month. All right. There's the poll. We got a timer. We're going to put a timer up. Here is the timer. Let me refresh this real quick. So a new version is here. We might as well use it. Right at this 200 exponential, I'm thinking about shorting it, but we'll see. All right, it's 8:30 Eastern. Central would be 9:30 market time. It'd be right at the opening bell. But no, this one's at 8:30 Eastern. Yeah, we're moving up. I'm tempted to short this though in the NASDAQ just because we got inflation data coming out. We're at the 200 exponential. I might take a little position here. Small. The range is small. So we're going to average into maybe 3 contracts up to that 200 exponential if we get it. If not, we're just going to sit in very small size and wait. Worried about Buffett rotation into commodities? Yeah. Bob and Baidu never keep their gains. Palantir last candlestick ready to go. I don't know. Inflation's the biggest risk. What do you guys fear more, recessions or inflation? Any reason Meta is down $5? Meta's probably down based off of tech and AI sensitivity and sympathy movement. We had some news that came out for so OpenAI ChatGPT co-creator Xingjia Cao threatened to quit Meta within days of joining, according to the Financial Times. Right, we had that news come out about an hour and a half ago. When did Meta drop down this much? I think Meta's just following the movement here, to be honest. I think Meta's just kind of trending with the rest of the market. I don't think this news is going to make it. He didn't quit. It just seems to be like a rumor, or like a, you know. But I think Meta's probably more so moving on sympathy with everything else going on right now. All right, so like I said, we're going to add a little bit to this up to the 200 exponential. We'll add one right here. There we go. That's good. Oh, I guess I'm going to take half off right here at my level if I can. And then we'll let the rest ride down. We just bounced. I hate it when we bounce off of my support once I'm in a opposing position, though. You don't love to see it. Recession, inflation, both. Which one more? Recession for low income, yeah. Recession, stagflation. What do you think path of least resistance for the dollar index? Oof, I don't know. Really don't know. All right, so we're gonna see if we can ride this, break it down. We're at 648 right now. All right, so we'll see if we can break down. We're moving down nicely. All right, we're just gonna take it off here if we can. I'm gonna short this again, I think, actually. I was gonna take one off, but we're pulling back right into a big resistance level. So I could probably take a larger position and use this as a time to take a little bit more risk here. See if we break down some more, fill some of this candle wick to the downside. which we have already. Let's see if we keep going down. We get out there. All right, we got out one there. We'll hold the rest pretty close to break even. All right, I'm out. Not a bad trade. We were short right around here. Rejected right around the 200 exponential. We'll take it. That's not bad. Where's gold at? Yeah, gold is still elevated from the last few days, but down today. If we take a look at yields and interest rate expectations ahead of this here. All right, so interest rate. What just happened? Why did my Chrome just shut down completely? That was weird. Everything shut down. Yeah, Chrome didn't shut down correctly, bro. Store it. There. Alright, well, at least it was before I was in my trade. Alright, we're back. Look at that rate cut odds here. I gotta fix this. I think we got out of this in time though. Anyways, look at that rate cut odds. 85.15. They're basically unchanged from yesterday, which means yields are basically unchanged from yesterday. Yields are basically unchanged. They haven't moved. They're up a little bit over the last few hours, up a little bit today, but kind of back and forth between 4.25 and 4.2% over the last 24 hours here. You can kind of see it. Not really doing too much. Up and down, but basically rate cut odds are expected at 85.15 right now for rate cuts. All right, guys, we got 1 hour. All right, chat. So he said something about the dollar. CrowdStrike, HC bad earnings. Yeah, I mean, rate cuts are going to probably make the dollar index go down and the Dixie go down. Means economic stimulation. Dixie, the dollar can kind of be seen as like a safe haven, you know. If we get like a hot inflation report, it means more hawkish Fed means that the Dixie will probably go up on a hot inflation report. If we get a low inflation report, the dollar index will probably go down. If that makes sense. All right, so we're rejecting up here. Let's see if we continue moving down, but I think the market might be flat ahead of this report. We got an hour. What's up, details? Let me put it. There we go. I like gold long term. Gold can sometimes move like in a macro way with markets though. Like gold kind of moves with markets sometimes. All right, so Japanese Prime Minister Ishiba said, I have set a target for 10 trillion yen of Japanese private investments in India. Yeah, so it's historically been the weakest month for US stocks in September, coming up in a few days. The S&P has fallen 56% of the time in September, which is almost half the time, right? Which means that half the time we do not drop in September. I mean, not half, 44% if we want to be specific here, but close to half of the time we don't drop in September. We actually move up, and so we don't always necessarily get a September slump. Chat, I hope that makes sense. We don't always get a September slump. It's important to understand. Yeah, gold, again, gold's technically down on the day. You can see it's at 3460s, but gold's been pushing up close to all-time highs. All-time highs in gold are about right here. I don't even have to look. I remember they're about right here. I'm pretty sure that's all-time highs. 3,505. Or no, 3534 actually. I guess we hit that a couple weeks ago. 3534 is new all-time highs in gold. So all-time highs in gold are actually up here, I guess. This big green line. So we're close, but we're still far away for gold. Gold doesn't generally move that much, but inflation data today could bump it one direction here. We'll see. If rate cuts happen in September, then it might not be a slump. Yeah, I mean, that's very true if we get rate cuts. But the question I have to ask here, and again, this is a good question for the chat. Do you think rate cuts will be buy the rumor, sell the news event? I was explaining to one of my friends here. He was talking about, and maybe you guys can give me some opinions about it. He was talking about USAR. USAR. Now, according the current administration supposedly thinking about doing a deal with this company or something like that. But what I told him was this, right? I looked up 1.2 billion market cap, so pretty small company. Small, medium maybe, but kind of small. It's moved up 30% just in the last week and a half or so. Or just in the last month since the beginning of August. It's up from 11 to 15, you know. And what I told him was this. The float size is about 64 million, right? 64 million float. So it's got a small float, a smallish float. And so what I told him is that it's volatile. It moves a lot. And sometimes it's buy the rumor, sell the news. Like if the current administration is going to do a deal with this company or announcing they might, the real insiders probably bought it a month ago. You know what I mean? Ahead of all this stuff. And then rode the move up, and, you know, you might get a sell-off from the, you know, actual thing happening. So you never really know the reaction here. And especially with small float stocks, they can be volatile. They can go up and down and up and down. But again, I don't know anything about this company. So just let me know if you like it. I don't know. But the question with rate cuts is September, if we do get a cut in September, is it going to be a buy the rumor, sell the news event? Like generally, I think the market wants rate cuts, but there's also inflation risks, and the market fears inflation. And so maybe the market moves up. Like once rate cuts are really confirmed, maybe we see some upward movements then. But then when we actually do cut rates September 17th or whatever the date is, I have to go back and check when the next Fed meeting is. Maybe we don't get such an easy positive reaction. Like if we get a rate cut and then a hawkish tone, and then, you know, I don't know. What do you guys think? And again, I'm not saying we're going to get a cut for sure. I think it depends on today's data. I think it depends on next week's data. Next week, we get another labor report, right? Just to put this into perspective. Next week, we get another labor report, right? The last one was bad. This one can really influence rate odds next week. It's getting a little bit close to the September meeting, though, to have like a crazy amount of influence, but it could. But the next one is in September, and then early the following week we're actually supposed to get like a yearly revision to the BLS labor report data. And then that week I think we also have CPI and PPI data. So every week for the next month, basically, we got a bunch of stuff going on. Well, it depends on which yields you're looking at. Somebody said there's an argument that rate cuts will make yields push up. Generally, yields and interest rates follow each other. So if rates go down, yields go down. But it depends on which yields you're going up. If market sees cuts as too early and digests it as like it's too early to cut, if inflation's a problem, they expect higher future inflation. Investors demand higher yields to compensate for it. And that might make, long-term rates climb. If cuts make people think that the Fed is taking advantage of debt, making it easier for them to borrow money, they could sell off treasuries, and that consequently would make yields go up, right? So there is some arguments for yields going up, but we'll see. All right, so we just rejected here. I really thought about shorting 648. I didn't. Maybe I should have. Yeah, some of my favorite trading quotes. The time to buy is when blood is running in the streets. One of my favorite trading quotes. Money's not made in waiting. Or no, sorry, I butchered it. Money is not made in trading. It's made in waiting. Another good trading quote. One of my favorite quotes in general comes from The Big Short. The very beginning of The Big Short, they put a quote on screen. And it goes something like it. I might get it wrong, but it goes, the truth is like poetry. And most people freaking hate poetry. I like that one. That's a good one too. I also like market doesn't repeat itself. But history doesn't repeat itself, but it certainly rhymes. I think it was Mark Twain that said that one, maybe. I don't know. There's a bunch of good quotes. Alibaba exec says in August, monthly active consumers on quick commerce business is approaching 300 million users. Shania Twain, the GOAT? Yeah. Her big hit, man, I just feel like trading, Alright, we're at 640s right now, 640s. Again, you can kind of see, here's yields right here. Alright, so you want to see yields right here, here's yields. They have been falling down a little bit. We're at about 4.2%. Bottom middle charts yields. Gold's on the bottom right chart. Here's Nvidia, which is down again. Nvidia's down because Alibaba says they are going to start producing AI. I think they said AI chips, right? Let me make sure. Nvidia is down because Wall Street Journal reports Alibaba is developing new AI chips to help fill the Nvidia void. Alibaba is a Chinese company. And remember, we got news not that long ago that said China was actively discouraging people from buying Nvidia chips and instead pushing them to buy domestic options, right? And so this is kind of an update to that. This is Alibaba, one of the big Chinese companies, saying that they're going to be creating their own AI chips in response to that. Is it one of those good news equals bad news things? PCE looks bad so much, so more likely a hike, so markets are up. Well, I don't think we're going to hike rates. I don't think anybody thinks we're going to hike rates. The Fed's about balance, right? Like, we can't really raise rates like that unless inflation is wildly out of control, as well as we have labor market strength to, labor market resilience, that like we can raise rates and the labor market would still do okay, right? Like, we can't raise rates if the labor market's incredibly weak, which we've seen data that kind of looks like the labor market is weak over the past month. And so I don't think there's any chance we rate hike in September. There's a chance we don't cut, but I don't think we're going to rate hike. I don't think that makes any sense. All right now. Hey, listen, y'all don't argue about politics. If he says something you disagree with politically, just ignore it. Ignore it. I'm not even saying I agree or disagree with anything. I'm just not talking about politics. Y'all just move on from it. Don't get wrapped up in it. Yeah, I mean, we could pause. A rate hike is raising rates. We did a bunch of rate hikes in 2022 to combat almost 10% inflation that we got from 2020. All the economic stimulus, QE, money printing, everything that went on, supply chain problems, inflation spiked by 2022. The Fed raised rates for 450 basis points, and then they paused them at those somewhat restrictive levels for like a year straight. We only started cutting them back in September of last year. We cut 3 times last year, at the end of last year. And then we've been pausing since then. And now we're moving into September, where a lot of people are pushing for a cut. It's going to depend on the inflation data, though, I think. I'm okay with cutting 25 basis points and continuing QT as balance. And, like, I think that's fine. I think that's perfectly fine. But we'll see what happens. $50 basis point rate cuts coming. I don't think it's going to be 50. I think they're about balance. 25 is not really a big cut either. I don't think it's going to be 50. I think they're about balance. They're not going to bump it up that much when it's divisive. Knee-jerk reaction, maybe. We'll see. All right, we're at 643s right now. Look at the rejection here at 648. I've thought about shorting it a couple different times. Maybe we're going to chop into this PCE data. Yeah, maybe. Why is PCE higher? How the stock market will react? If PCE is higher, market's probably not going to react favorably to it, but you never know. You never know what the market's going to do, but market's probably doesn't want high inflation. They want rate cuts next month, I think, but you never know. But high PCE is going to make the market react negatively, probably. We'll see. Probably. Yeah, so a lot of price targets were raised down for the day as well. Alibaba exec says they have cumulatively invested over 100 billion RMB in AI infrastructure and AI product research and development a couple minutes ago. Jim Cramer says, quote, "You will read many a story out of China that talks about a chip superior to Nvidia's. 1, probably not true. 2, it makes the president more likely to outline the 15% deal. All part of the job of shaking you out." End quote. You guys agree with this? Jim Cramer. Sounds like he's bullish. Does Bitcoin go up today? Let's take a look at crypto here. I don't know. I think it anything that's more dovish will probably make Bitcoin react favorably to it, just based off of what crypto Bitcoin traders want. I think lower rates is going to make Bitcoin go up. You never know for sure though, but I would assume. Let me know if you guys think that's right. Lower dovish sentiment, which would be lower inflation data today, like reasonable inflation data. It doesn't even need to be lower, it just doesn't want to seem elevated. Like, it doesn't need to be super low, it can't come in super hot today. If it comes in hot, I think that makes Bitcoin go down. I think that probably makes markets go down too. We'll have to wait and see. We got 45 minutes left, but yeah. We'll see. Yeah, I mean, eventually China's going to develop their own stuff, you know. They're a big country in terms of population. Like, they're going to build stuff, have stuff. Approaching Bitcoin's worst month, not looking good. Yeah, I mean, lower rates causes yields to decrease generally. Decreasing generally causes people to migrate over to more risky assets like the S&P and the NASDAQ and the Dow and stocks versus bonds, which are guaranteed low risk. But the interest rate that you make from bonds is going to decrease if we cut rates. Probably. Probably. Although, again, some people are arguing it's not. It depends on which yields we're looking at and which time frame. But yeah, that's kind of everything. All right, so in earnings today, we did have some earnings drop. We had Alibaba report, some other ones. Yeah, Jim Cramer's been historically very wrong about a lot of stuff. Punchbowl says the current administration will pursue a pocket rescission of foreign aid money. According to Punchbowl, this will dramatically increase the chances of a government shutdown in September. Remember, markets closed on Monday. Markets are closed on Monday. Realistically, Nvidia can't maintain their hold on chip progression. Others will catch up. Just look at Tesla. Yeah, I mean, they're going to have competitors for sure. But you got to understand, they've got a big head start on most people. You know what I mean? And a head start can sometimes mean everything. And so, yeah, not always, but a lot of the time. Tesla rebounding back up. It's up to 350s. So many people told me to sell Tesla at like 200, so I'm glad I didn't. Is it still inverse Kramer, guys? Is it still inverse Kramer? Let me know. Yeah. Bears can be wrong for sure. All right, guys, 40 minutes here. 40 minutes. We're at 6:35 right now. 6:35. Again, a lot of stuff's down. Nvidia's down after Alibaba coming out saying they're going to create their own AI chips to compensate for restrictions in Nvidia. Yeah, I think all the big 46 billion in revenue for Nvidia was consolidated into 6 specific buyers, which a lot of people are interpreting as not diversified enough. It's you know, just not diversified enough for Nvidia. Do you guys agree with that regarding Nvidia? I'm not saying that's the case, but a lot of people are worried because again, Nvidia's entire $46 billion in revenue is consolidated into only 6 buyers. Yeah, Marvel's down on earnings, I believe. All right, Nasdaq's still breaking down. Sideways trend though. That's very sideways. Marvel is down 14% on weaker than expected Q3 revenue projections. Bitcoin down to 110s. 10-year treasury yields are inching towards 4.2%, so down a little bit. Investors are kind of weighing inflation risks. Again, 8:30 is going to be a big report, guys. So just stick around. We got some time, but 8:30 is going to be big. I've already taken a couple trades this morning. It was mostly short. I got in short, actually. I should have held it in hindsight, but hindsight's 2020. I got in short around here. The reason I got short is because we had dipped and then pulled back to the 200 exponential. It was kind of a trend continuation strategy right here. And then we ended up dipping down to about right here. And I took profit is kind of what I did. So we got in short. Held it. We'll see what the inflation data shows up today. They'll break it down though. We've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 red candles in a row now. Starting to see some weakness. We got some support here though. We could bounce at 630s. We could push back up here. We'll see what Nvidia does. Nvidia's been rejecting at the volume weighted average price level 178.50s. Apple here, still down on the day, but up a little bit over the last few minutes. Yeah, so it is September 17th. Got it. Yeah, that's what I thought it was. Hope there's an end of the year rally to save me. Yeah, I mean, sometimes we get bigger movement. You got to understand, especially with like, it just depends. You know, it just depends. Like we got the holiday season, sales increasing, money increasing, holiday bonuses. You know, sometimes we do get runs. The biggest months for the stock market are generally October, November, December, and January. Right, those are generally the biggest months for the stock market. Not always. We could always move in other, like this is in general. Same thing with September, right? Like 54% of the time September drops, or market drops in September. But that means 46% of the time market goes up in September, almost half the time. And so it doesn't mean September is always going to be bearish. It doesn't mean that. We could have a bearish September, but it's not a certainty. Well, yeah, the 6 buyers are the biggest companies in the world that are vying for AI, for sure, 100%. Again, so I'm reading this about Alibaba chips here. Alibaba did come in. First quarter net income came in at 5.9 billion on revenue of 34.6. Here's Baba. They're up some. They're at 123.60s. Alibaba is waging a price war with domestic rivals trying to hold on to market share in the increasing competitive consumer retail space. They said 76% rise in net income from a year earlier to equity investments and gains from the disposal of Turkish online shopping company Trendyol, which was partly offset by the decrease in income from operations. They largely agree that China is far off from having the capabilities to make chips that can rival Nvidia's most advanced products, which it isn't allowed to sell under the export restrictions. Still, companies such as Huawei, Cambricon, Baidu, and now Alibaba are all racing to come up with alternatives to Nvidia's H2O chip, the most advanced chip it's allowed by the US government to sell overseas. Yeah. Does higher PCE means bearish? Higher PCE means higher inflation, right? So that will ultimately mean a more hawkish, restrictive Federal Reserve. In terms of rate decisions, it will mean a more restrictive monetary policy outlook. You know, high inflation means that we can't really cut rates and stimulate the economy as much as we want to, because cutting rates and stimulating the economy might make inflation worse. And so if inflation is elevated and already an issue, that's the argument. And that's how the yields are probably going to react. So if we get higher inflation, yields are probably going to spike up. You know, so for like we'll see, but that's probably what's going to happen. Aren't you afraid of a stock market crash, multi-year bear market? How come no one is talking about the indices? What makes you think we're going to crash? Listen, I'll say it once, I'll say it again. And I want to be very clear here. I am not saying we're not going to crash. I'm not saying a crash isn't possible. We could certainly crash. We could have another issue, like another instance of the .com crash, right? The internet was that next big technology, but people got greedy from it. And we had one of the longer bear markets in history following it in 2000. From 2000 all the way to 2008, and then boom, we had the mortgage disaster in 2008, and that kept us down for years and years and years. And so that's possible. I'm not saying something like that doesn't happen from greediness with AI. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that every single year, somebody tells me the market is going to crash. Somebody puts out an argument that the market's going to crash. And again, it's fine to like make your thesis on it. I'm okay with that. Like, make your thesis, make your bets, do what you want to do. What I'm saying is that I'm not necessarily one of those people that's going to try to short the healthiest things in the market. I don't think that makes any sense. I would rather just buy them once they do drop. And again, you have to understand, every year somebody thinks we're going to crash. And so at a certain point, you have to understand crashes are wildly overpredicted. You know, wildly overpredicted. And you don't want to just kind of fall in line and just believe everybody that tells you the market's going to crash. Everybody that puts out a thesis that the market's going to crash. Again, I've said this before. I'll say it again. Back here, big banks basically said we would be entering a recession in the 2020s. Back here. So here, if you look at my chart, here, they basically said we were going to be entering a recession in the 2020s. I had all these people in here making fun of me, telling me I was dumb because I didn't think we were going to crash in this period of time. And again, I gave them the same argument. I said, look, crashes are overpredicted. I'm not going to bet on it. Like, again, and I started buying up stuff instead because we had already dropped like a big significant amount here. And then following that, and again, big banks tried to scare people. They put out all these arguments that said, oh, we're going to enter a recession. It's the end of the world, doom and gloom. But again, you can't necessarily watch what the banks say. You got to watch what they do. We had one of the longest bull markets in history following, we had one of the best bull markets following this. I'm not going to say in history. I don't have to look at the stats, but we had a very good bull market. AI boom happened. All this stuff happened, propelling things very, very high. And who do you think missed out on this? Retail traders. Who do you think profited from the big bull run? The banks did. So again, it's kind of watch what they do, not what they say. Maybe we do crash. It's possible, for sure. It's certainly not certain. And so just be careful. Understand, we don't always have to crash. I've had somebody in my chat every year pressure people to sell thinking we're going to crash. And generally it just doesn't happen. And usually they end up creating another username and acting like they never said it and all this different stuff. That's the nature of retail traders. So just be safe. Yeah, I've never heard that ever before, Lost. And again, maybe we do crash, maybe we do again, it's possible. It is possible. The people who do the worst in crashes, the people who get emotional and sell. The people who do the best in crashes, the people who buy it up. This is historically like very obvious. And so unless you're retiring imminently, time heals a lot of wounds, even if we do crash. Dollar cost averaging is generally your friend, and just be careful. Just be careful. Hedge if you need to. All right, so we had German inflation data come out. Should have a little bit more elevated than expected, but not much. Hey, what's up, Yair? And I get it. People think they can time crashes. People watch The Big Short. They idolize The Big Short, the movie The Big Short. But you got to understand, crashes are incredibly difficult to predict. You know, what happens is like, okay, if a trend is here, and somebody says right here, hey, we're gonna crash, and they keep saying it, we're gonna crash, we're gonna crash, we're gonna crash, we're gonna crash. And then we end up right here. We're still kind of above where they said it in the first place. And so they're still wrong. But they try to act like they're right because they've been saying we're going to crash every year for 6 years, you know. And so you got to understand, biggest losers in crashes are people that get emotional and sell. A lot of the time, people that are just trying to justify missing out on the big bull runs that happen, like the latest AI boom. But again, we could certainly crash from this. We could certainly have a bubble in AI. And have a big bear market from it. Certainly possible. Certainly possible. When it happens is harder to predict. If and when it happens, it's harder to predict, I should say. Yeah, maybe we do enter a recession. Again, if it's... We don't really see the negative signs in GDP yet. And as long as we cut rates effectively, maybe we can avoid that too. We'll have to see. We'll have to see. We'll have to look at the signs. All right, we're dropping down a little bit, still maintaining under this level. We got PCE inflation data in about 27 minutes, 26 minutes. "15-year bear market during 1929. Well, yeah, I mean, if you isolate the worst crash in history, you know, sure. No, I don't want my money down for 15 years, but that's the worst crash in history, brother, you know. The closest thing we've seen since then was really like 2000. In 2000, we had the dot-com crash, and then like if you take a look at the actual charting behind this, right? Like, let's take a look. I'm gonna put this chart big right here so we can really see it. Let's look at what are we gonna look at? The S&P. Okay. So if we go back to 2000, we got really unlucky. So here's 2000, and here's the big internet boom. Like, look at the big internet boom. Big internet boom up to 2000, and then the bubble burst. NASDAQ's breaking down as we say this. Look at this. So NASDAQ just cracked this level. Watch 621s. It was a level yesterday. But we had the big internet boom, and then the bubble burst here. And so we downtrended for a few years. We started to hold at about $800 on the S&P, though. So we did start to hold there. And you can see we started to trend back up. But the problem is we got kind of unlucky. By 2007, we were basically... let me see where we're at. Hold on. Let me make sure I'm correcting this. Let me make sure there's no breaking news that came out here. Hold on. Let me check social media real quick. Hold on, chat. I'll get back to this. Ex-Bank of England, Shafik, is going to be Starmer's chief economic advisor. Peston, according to Peston, software rate. We got Zelensky saying Ukraine's allies agreed to wait until September 1st to show readiness for bilateral meeting. I don't really see anything that might be moving this. We'll see. But look at his bounce at 621, right where we said. Anyways, back to what I was saying here. So, again, by 2007 and 2008, we were back up basically over where we were prior to the 2000 crash. Right, and we had this big bull run since 2003. We had started to trend back up, and as long as you're dollar cost averaging into this type of stuff, you're still probably fine. But then we had the mortgage disaster. So the thing with 2000 is that we had two big economic events happen within a decade of each other, you know, and so that's kind of what bumped us right back down here. And then we had to climb back up from 2000 or from 2008, and it took us some time to do it. But we got back up over 1,500 by 2013. So in both of these, we got back up over where we were within 5 years. We just had two consecutive, like back-to-back within like a 7-year period. A little unlucky, but not always luck. Kind of just sketchiness going on. All right, guys. PCE data, 8:30 Eastern Standard Time. What do we get? And are you implying that we are in a bubble? Honestly, I don't know. I think we could be. China's foreign ministry lodged solemn representation with the Philippines over the Taiwan official visit. I'm not saying we are. I'm not saying we're not. I don't know. I don't know whether we're in a bubble. Yeah, it could be the 8 a.m. scrum. That's probably true. Markets are at all-time highs. Nothing goes up forever. Yeah, I mean, that's true. But also, like, you have to understand. Generally, when the market's at all-time highs, it continues to go up for a period of time. So just because we're at all-time highs doesn't mean we come back down. We could. We certainly could. But it doesn't mean we have to. All right, guys. We got 1,300 here already. We still got over 20 minutes left until this data drops. We'll see what we get. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. We appreciate it. NASDAQ did bounce right at 621. That's the level we told you guys to watch here when we were up here. We said watch 621. And that's where we bounced. Let's see if we continue. Again, it makes sense to chop ahead of this report. Indices are mostly down today. Nvidia's down after Alibaba came out saying they were going to be creating their own alternative chips to Nvidia for domestic stuff. Well, it's probably because he's 90 years old, follow. All right, so August ends Friday with all three major indices up 2.5% through Thursday. S&P Dow on track for a 4-month winning streak, longest since September of last year. NASDAQ heading for a 5th straight monthly gain, best run in 18 months. Gains came despite headwinds, weak August first jobs report, the tariff hikes, and Lisa Cook drama. The strength mostly in markets is driven by earnings, AI enthusiasm, and light trading volumes. Dow and S&P hit record highs Thursday, with the S&P making its 20th record close this year. So, see what we get here, guys. Here's the SPY. We take a look at the VIX. The VIX is up to elevated today with the bearishness in markets. Bitcoin is down still at 110s. Yeah, I mean, we're obviously not in a recession. Not yet. All right, guys. Hey, we got about 20 minutes left. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. We appreciate it. We'll cover it as soon as it comes out. We get thousands of people here because we cover it right when it comes out for PCE inflation data. So subscribe, hit the notification bell. Do you think we keep breaking down leading into PCE inflation? Again, PCE is expected at 0.3% for core, 2.9% for year-over-year core. Headline expected at 0.2% month over month and 2.6% year over year. Remember, the most important PCE report is the core PCE. It excludes food and energy prices, which are the most volatile. And the NASDAQ has been trending down over the last hour and 10 minutes or so. Yeah, core PCE higher than 3% is bad. Yeah. All right, guys. Holding at 620. This is a triple bottom here. 1, 2, 3. Right around 620s, maybe 615s. The VIX is elevated. Nvidia is down. Bitcoin is down. We got gold up here. Gold is elevated over the last few days, but I think it's down today. Core is over 3%. It'll signal higher inflation problems, which can be bad, of course, which isn't necessarily good. Higher inflation ain't good in most people's minds, and that's the risk. All right, guys, so we're at 23,620s. Nvidia at 178. 16 minutes. You guys ready? What do you get? What's your predictions? Like, what percentages you think PCE is going to come in today? Again, if we look at yields, yields are climbing a little bit higher this morning. A little bit higher, not much, but slightly. Showing a more hawkish sentiment, maybe some fears from PCE inflation. Yeah, and follow the rabbit guy. Listen, I'm not against you. You might be right. Maybe we do correct. Maybe we do crash. I really don't know. I really don't know. I'm just trying to tell people, like, so many people get influenced by all this different things. I'll see people be like, yeah, I'm shorting the market big. The market's definitely going to do this. And then the market does the complete opposite thing, and then it's kind of like crickets. It's kind of silence. You never see them again. And I just hope they don't influence too many people, because nobody knows what we're going to get for inflation data today. It could come in elevated. It could come in low. Either one of those things is very possible. There's a very famous saying, it's react, not predict. And I think this is one of those situations where, especially if you're trying to take a position now, a reactionary mindset is probably the best move. You might be right. Maybe we do dump down today. We don't really know. Even if we know what PCE is going to show up at, which we don't know what the reaction is going to be in the market anyway. It's a lot of the time the markets buy the rumor, sell the news. And so the market's getting baked into its PCE prediction right now. So just be smart. Be careful, guys. Be careful. Yeah, we got University of Michigan consumer sentiment. Yeah, PCE is probably going to move more than the University of Michigan consumer sentiment. Michigan consumer sentiment is not the most accurate data. Their consumer sentiment and inflation expectations are not the most accurate. They change a lot. But we'll see. We'll see. We'll cover that too at 10 o'clock. Tilray, cannabis stock. I'm just not optimistic cannabis gets legalized. I'm really not. Like, I don't. You get all these people that posture and be like, yeah, we're going to legalize it, you know. And then they get a bunch of PAC money from big industries that don't want it legalized. And then they just don't do anything, you know. And so I'm just not confident in cannabis stocks. It's not. Maybe they go up, you know. But yeah. Today's report is Jackson Hole level. Yeah, I mean, I think today's report, listen, over the past month and a half, we've had a lot of contradictory reports that have made people nervous about stagflation. Stagflation is an economic state in which we have high inflation and weak labor markets. And we've had data to kind of show some of that. we've had a really weak labor report where they revised jobs for May and June down extensively. It came in at negative 58,000 jobs revised downward. That shows labor market weakness. And then following that, we had a relatively calm CPI report that was mostly neutral. But then the PCE, which is wholesale inflation, business inflation, that eventually a lot of the time gets passed on to consumers anyway, showed incredibly elevated numbers here. Like incredibly elevated numbers. Like that data showed up super hot. And it freaked a lot of people out. You know, PCE inflation came out almost 4% in some places year over year. Freaked everybody out. And so then that's the other side of it, where we had risks to yeah, look, PCE inflation, chat, showed up 0.9% headline month over month, 0.2% expected, almost 1% month over month, core month over month, almost 1%, 0.9%, core PPI year over year, almost 4%, 3.7 versus under 3% expected. And so that made people kind of worried. It's still pretty probable at this point. It didn't influence rate cuts that much, to be real, or to be honest, but still, now people worried about stagflation because we've had weak labor and high inflation data. And so today's PPI or today's PCE inflation report is going to be the first look we get at inflation. Since then, it's going to be the first real look. We've seen jobless claims. Jobless claims have showed either elevation in 1 week, and then another week they've showed kind of flat numbers yesterday. And so labor report's been, you know, we'll see. But next week, we got another labor report after today's PCE inflation data. So we got a lot of stuff coming the next few weeks that might influence monetary policy, especially in September. And that's been at the front of the market lately. So hey, buddy. Hey, love you, man. Good day, dude. The de minimis exemption. De minimis exemption, if you hear people talking about it, is an exemption on very low price goods. Like basically, we're not going to tariff things that have very slight margins because they're cheap. But that exemption is ending. I don't know if it ends today. I'll have to check. But yeah, if you ever hear de minimis, that's what they're talking about. They're talking about tariffs on really cheap things. All right, guys. So we're starting to bounce back up. We bounced right at 620s heading into this report. We got about 11 minutes left. All right, so we did a poll here. 49% think higher inflation, 24% think lower, 26% think as expected. Somebody's saying, why does the poll expect higher inflation? It's probably from the last PPI inflation report that we saw. The last PPI inflation report was high. It wasn't low. So we're probably seeing it because of a high PPI inflation report makes people fearful of PCE now. As expected is my guess. Maybe it's flat. As expected would be a win, I think. You know, under 3% expected for both of them. We show up as expected. I think that's a win. And I think that's going to signal much more likelihood of rate cuts in September. So if we get a reasonable inflation report today, I think that is all but going to confirm September rate cut. Is my guess. What do you guys think? Do you guys think if we get reasonable inflation data today, we're going to cut rates in September? Let me know. All right, guys, we're getting close here. 9 minutes. 9 minutes. Nasdaq's chopping sideways at this point in time. Gold's moving up a little bit ahead of inflation data. And remember, gold moves up because inflation, it can be hedged. Yields have been a little bit higher today. Yeah, during the 1970s inflation spike, gold soared from about $35 an ounce to $800 an ounce by 1980. So, gold currently is at about $3,500 an ounce. It's a wild increase, though, from 1971 all the way up to 1980. Gold increased from $35 an ounce to $800 an ounce by 1980. So a lot of the time, gold and inflation move higher. If gold's spiking up, maybe it means people are fearful of high inflation data ahead of this report. Again, the report drops in about 8.5 minutes, 7 minutes, really. Marginally higher, Franco? Maybe. We'll see. 25 basis points September cut? Maybe. Not if jobs are down. If jobs are down, they're going to cut rates more likely. A weak labor report means you need to cut rates more, not less. So, what would discourage a rate cut would be a strong labor report. Like high payrolls, you know, high jobs, you know, low unemployment, strong labor report, strong jobs. That would encourage a rate cut, not discourage it. Just to put that into perspective. If it's higher, that could increase the chance of rate cuts, right? If inflation is higher? No, that's the opposite. If inflation's higher, it decreases the odds of rate cuts because stimulating the economy through rate cuts might make people spend more, businesses expand more, and inflation ultimately go higher, not lower. That's why Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies want rate cuts, right? They want QE. I don't think we should do QE at all. I think QE is a terrible idea. Not unless we see some really big labor market weakness and GDP pullbacks. I don't think we should do quantitative easing at all. We're still doing tightening. We'll see. 7 minutes here. All right, guys. 7 minutes. Again, put it in 2x speed and hit the live button. You'll be right here when it goes live. Right here. Again, PCE inflation today is expected. Headline PCE expected at 0.2%. Core PCE expected. Actually, I think that's opposite. Hold on. Let me see. Yeah, right. Headline PCE actually expected at 0.2% on the month and 2.6% on the year. Core PCE expected at 0.3% month over month and 2.9%. They're both expected under 3%, but I've seen a couple people say it. I think 3% is the level. If we're over 3, I think that's bad. I think markets might not like it. You never know, though. We could do anything here. But if we're over 3, I think that's bad. Regardless of what the market does, over 3 is not good. Not good, personally. Does it increase inflation? It depends on how bad inflation is and how weak employment is. So those are two contradictory things, right? The Fed cutting rates stimulates the economy, makes inflation worse. To a certain degree. QE makes it much worse, generally. That's one way the Fed can combat like a weak labor market is by cutting interest rates, stimulating the economy. Raising interest rates will kind of push the economy down a little bit, but combat inflation, lower inflation. And so those are the two things the Fed can do, right? And their job is to maintain balance. They have their dual mandate, which is like low inflation and like a strong labor market, you know? But that's kind of like they want their cake and eat it too. They have their cake and eat it too. It's kind of that dynamic. It's the best of both worlds. Hard to do. If we could be under 3% for inflation, that's reasonable. You know, 2% is their target, sure, but if we could be under 3, I think that's reasonable. But yeah, here we go. We got 5 minutes, chat. Yeah, but I think the last 5 years we've been different. Regardless of what China's doing in terms of printing, if they're in a printing cycle, regardless of that, the past 5 years we had 2020, lockdowns, stimulus checks, supply chain problems. All of these things contributed to massive inflation issues. And you hear a lot of people that are unhappy yelling that we're in a recession. We're not in a recession. Prices are just up drastically relative to where they were pre-2020. That's why most people are still unhappy, and prices don't necessarily go down, they just slow down. And so going through another QE cycle is going to start that process over again, and people are really going to be unhappy at the end of it. Despite, you know, of course, people that are investing in Bitcoin and crypto, they want that, right? But I'll say it once and I'll say it again, and I'm not against you. I hold Bitcoin. I hold other cryptocurrencies. I hold altcoins. If Bitcoin goes up, but inflation spikes up, is that really a win? You know, because you're paying more for everything now. And so is that really a win? That's the question I'll ask you. Like, I get it. People want all this economic stimulus to boost their Bitcoin holdings, and I get it. But I'm not necessarily there with you. Like, I would rather inflation be stable for 5 years plus instead of causing more inflation problems, if that makes sense. 2.5 years, or 3.5 minutes left. 3.5 minutes. Yeah, well, QE will help. Bringing interest rates down. QE will help bring interest rates down faster. That might help with mortgage rates, sure. House prices will probably go up, though. But again, we could end QT and get a similar reaction. It's not going to be as good as QE, but we could end the tightening, which would help bring mortgage rates down without necessarily having to print. Does that make sense? So, like, that's a possibility, too. But it's subjective what you guys think we should do. Again, we got less than 3 minutes here, chat. Hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. I don't know how the market's going to respond today. Again, hit the live button, put it in 2x speed. Make sure you're caught up to the stream here. We got 2.5 minutes left. 2.5 minutes left. Vote on the poll. Let me know how you feel. And yeah. Let's do this. All right, guys, remember, core PCE month over month expected at 0.2%. Previously, it showed up at 2 minutes left. 2 minutes left. 0.3% last time. The previous of 0.3%. Yeah, so core PCE year over year is expected at 0.3%. Previous of... What did core show up? Yeah, previous of 0.3%. Okay. Yeah, PCE month over month. It's expected at 0.2%. No, core PCE month over month is expected at 0.3. Right? Yeah. PCE month over month expected at 0.2%. All right, guys, we got 1 minute. Here we go. Get ready. All right, guys, here we go. 30 seconds. 30 seconds. The timer's a little bit early, guys. 30 seconds. Again, guys, the timer's a little bit early. Let's do this. All right, guys, there's the data. The data showed up at PCE showed up 0.3% as expected, 2.9% for core as expected. Everything showed up as expected today for inflation data, as expected. Again, it showed up at 2.6% year over year for headline, 2.9% for core. Everything showed up as expected, 0.2%. Again, 0.3% for core as expected. Core PCE year over year showed up at 2.9%, right? Let me see, make sure. Yeah, core PCE 2.9%. Versus 2.9% expected. Everything showed up completely flat today, and the market sees this as a win right now. Again, core PCE month over month 0.2% versus 0.2% expected. Everything showed up as expected. Core PC or regular PCE year over year showed up at 2.6% versus 2.6% expected here. So as expected. All right, market is incredibly positive to this report as well. Incredibly positive to this as well. Way better than expected. Inflation data As expected, again, nothing was over 3%, which is a massive win here. Nothing's over 3%. Everything was flat. As expected. And yeah, this is pretty good numbers here. Pretty good numbers. Again, PCE data. Core PC price index 0.3 versus 0.3. Last time was 0.3. So here's the data on screen. I'll put it up. Sometimes the first move is the wrong move, guys. This doesn't mean we're going to continue moving up today. It does not mean we're going to continue to move up. Again, 2.9 versus 2.9, 2.8% last time. So it does not mean we're going to keep moving up. Sometimes the first move is the wrong move. But yeah, here's the data on screen here for core PCE. Headline was as expected as well. Yeah, there we go. All right, guys, we got a spike up there at 650, but again, the data was pretty good today. Pretty good. Better than a lot of people expected. A lot of people expected. Again, you can see the data scrolling on the bottom of the screen. NASDAQ's reacting positively. And like I said, I think if we show up under 3%, I think if we show up as expected today, that's a win. I think that's what the market wants. That's what the market sees. If we can show up not elevated today versus last time, as well as versus expectation, that's a win. If we take a look at yields and how they're initially reacting to this, they're down. So you can see yields are decreasing from this, showing a lower interest rate sentiment, right? This is all but going to confirm a September cut, in my opinion. I think this is all but going to confirm a September cut. Let's see if the odds of rate cuts are moving. They usually move with yields. We haven't seen much movement outside of this though, so odds are still the same, 85-15. But yeah. Again, core PCE, month over month, 0.3% versus 0.3%. Core PCE year over year, 2.9 versus 2.9, 2.8% last time. Core PCE month over month, 2.6 versus 2.6. PCE month over month, 2.2 versus 0.2. Everything flat. Good trades balance for July did show up a little bit more negative, which means that we are importing a little bit more than expected. That we're importing a little bit more than expected versus exporting, the ratio there. But the NASDAQ, again, on PCE data is up big. Yeah, we'll see if it's revised. It could be revision. And so, again, this is what I'm trying to say. Guaranteed they're going to dump it at during market open. Didn't you guarantee that we would crash on this data and that it would be high? Maybe it wasn't you. I don't know. It could be somebody else. But I mean, I can go back and check the chat. But again, relatively good data here. Relatively good data. Reasonable data. The VIX is down. Gold is up. NASDAQ is up. Nvidia is up. Doesn't mean we're going to hold. Nothing's absolute in markets, guys. Nothing's absolute. It doesn't even mean we hold. We could drop. It's certainly possible we drop. Again, it's kind of buy the rumor, sell the news sometimes with this type of stuff. But yeah, PCE data is out. We forming kind of like a symmetrical triangle here. Yeah. All right, guys. Hey, good numbers here. Good numbers. We'll see if we hold. Again, PCE inflation data came in as expected universally. As expected everywhere. You can see it scrolling at the bottom in yellow now on the screen. As expected, not elevated, under 3%. Markets like it. Yields are down. VIX is down. NASDAQ is up. Nvidia is up. Gold is up. That is the reaction here. Again, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. We cover all the data live. And we got the University of Michigan Consumer Sentiment Report at 10 a.m. today, so be here for that. It's going to be maybe market moving. We'll see. We'll watch the CME watch tool to see if this is moving. It's not. Yields are down slightly, not very much, but down a little bit. It might be right back up here. Hold on, actually, let me see. Yeah, yields are down slightly. They've had a net negative reaction to this, which is good. This is interest rates, but again, the Nasdaq is up slightly. It's not up that much. Yeah, I've said hey to you. Yeah, you're already. Yeah, I mean, Bitcoin hasn't really reacted. It originally reacted positive, but it's now back down. But it is Friday. Also, guys, if you want to help support the channel, check out Top Step. No PDT in futures. You can day trade the S&P, NASDAQ, Dow in futures. It gets you around the PDT roll. You don't have to deposit thousands of dollars. Base one is $50 a month. They test your skill. The base one, I think you got to make $3K in profit on a demo without losing $2K first, a reasonable 3-to-2 ratio. If you pass that test, they fund you $50K. You get to keep your first $10K after that, and then 90% following that. So it's similar to funding your own account in terms of split $50 risk versus funding your own account thousands and probably losing your first account like most new day traders end up doing. Zero commission on Top Step X. It's just the best way to learn how to day trade. And if you're good enough, you can start taking payouts and fund your own account. And so it's a great way to learn. I'll put the link up here if you want to help support the channel. They are an affiliate or sponsor of mine. I am biased because I get paid by that. I don't even claim to be a good trader. Don't copy me. Not an investment professional. Understand all this stuff on screen. Don't do it. Not an investment professional. I'm not liable if you lose money. Don't copy me. With that said, NASDAQ is pulling back a little bit after some elevation from this inflation data. We'll see if the market holds. And again, I'll put this link up here. I'll pin it to the top of the chat if you want to check it out. Did PCE data hint towards a September cut? I would say it did. It came in mostly flat. Technically, it showed up neutral, but I think neutral is a win right now based off of PPI data last time. Based off of rate cut expectations now, I don't think a neutral inflation report is going to sway rate cut odds to the downside. Like, I don't think odds are going to decrease for a September rate cut on this report. And we can take a look at the initial reaction in 10-year yields, and we can see we actually have a lower interest rate sentiment from 10-year yields. So we'll see. Yeah, we got the jobs report next week. And then after that, we got like a revision, a yearly revision, I think, to the BLS labor data that comes out not next week, but the week after next. So it's a busy time too. Yeah, it kind of solidifies the September cut most likely here is what this report does today with PCE. That's why the market reacted positively, is because it's we still have a 15% chance of a pause, and that's not nothing. As a poker player, 15% hits sometimes. But I think it's going to confirm these odds that we currently have, at least for rate cuts next month, which is good odds. Good odds. Yeah, but I think that we would have seen a bigger move here from PCE if it didn't show up completely flat. Literally every single PCE inflation metric showed up flat as expected here. So again, literally every single PCE report showed up flat as expected here. If we take a look at the current release right now, personal income increased 112.3 billion in July, according to estimates. Here's the July report. Again, PC personal interest payments, personal current transfers increased 111 billion almost in July. Personal savings up 985 billion in July. Personal savings rate as a percentage was 4.4%. You can see the increases, the changes in monthly consumer spending for July. Motor vehicles and parts, 34.9. Food and beverages, 9.7. Other non-durable goods, 5. Recreational goods, 3.8. Clothing and footwear, 3.2. Other durable goods, 2.5. Gasoline and other energy foods decreased 12.1. Versus a month ago, again, we already gave you this data. 2.6%. Year over year, core PCE 2.9% year over year. So yeah, that's the PCE report. Mostly flat, and the market's moving and behaving as such, but it is a net positive reaction in market so far. Yeah. 10-year bonds going down, then we expect rate cuts in September. Yeah, it kind of looks like a bull flag. Let's see. We have the 200 exponential right here. And then we have this support level here as well at about 650 that we're bouncing off of. All right, look at the NASDAQ. We're starting to dip down. Again, sometimes the first move is the wrong move, and sometimes, again, it's buy the rumor, sell the news. We'll see how the market behaves, but... Will we have a rate cut next month? Probably after this data, probably, but it's never certain. Again, nothing is absolute in trading economics. Nothing's absolute. You got higher probabilities, lower probability bets, but nothing's absolute. It's, you know, at this point, it's 85-15 odds for rate cuts in September, which is not, you know, like we could certainly change from this. We're at 85.2% right now, but nothing's absolute. And again, the biggest mistake I see retail traders make is they treat things like they're absolute. Again, people come in here, they say, oh, we're going to crash from PCE data. And then we don't. They say, oh, the market's going to crash this year. Oh, we don't. They say the market's going to enter recession this year, and we don't. And so you got to understand, nothing's absolute. I think sometimes people gamble with options and other things, and so they want to believe things are absolute. But just understand there's variance. Again, I loved poker before I loved trading and investing, and I still love poker. But one of the truths you have to accept about poker is that sometimes your aces are going to get cracked by 2-7. Sometimes you're going to lose with kings to 8-9 suited. You know what I mean? Like it happens. There's variance. Sometimes the best setup is there and we still don't and we still lose. Sometimes the worst setup is there and we still win. And so just understand it's probabilities. It's never absolute. It's important to understand that. Yeah, let me do a poll. For the rest of the day, does the market move up or down from today's PCE inflation report? Up, down. What do you think the market goes from here? Vote on the poll. Let me know how you feel. What's your IQ? The last time I got my IQ checked, I was about 12. And I'm not going to be too specific about it. It's just, I'm not going to, you know. All right, guys. So again, we're at 654s. Let's see if we hold the support line. I didn't say my IQ was 12. I said I was 12 years old. Young John. Based off of how I was when I was 12, you know, I'm pretty sure my parents were just trying to make sure I was a normal person. We did the same thing for my son. My son, very smart, very smart. We were worried about autism in the beginning, and so we got him tested for like that and ADHD, and he came out with something called ADHD combined presentation, but his IQ was like 120 something when we got my son's done when he was like 9. And so my son, very smart. He's a little jerk sometimes, but I love him, but very smart. Come on now. Yeah. Yeah. Very true. All right, guys. Nasdaq's bouncing back. We're at 663s. Let's see if we hold. VIX is down, showing strength. Down a little bit. It's still 15s, 14s. First move is the algos. Yeah, I mean, the algos are going to interpret this as positive. Hey, you got to have a story. The story is, again, I told you guys my story, which is that I think we just need reasonable inflation data. We just don't want to see elevated over 3% inflation data today, which we did. We showed 2.9%, 2.6%, 0.3%, 0.2%. We showed under 0.5% month over month, and we showed under 3% year over year for both core and headline PCE inflation data. And I think that's a win right now. I think that's a win when PCE data scared a lot of people. I think that's a win. No, he doesn't take any medication for ADHD. When I was young, they gave me medication. I hated it. I didn't eat. I didn't sleep. I hated it. I didn't take it. I never got excited about anything, really. And again, I don't take any medication, you know. Neither does my son. We're not going to put him on anything. Yeah, I'm looking at rate cut odds, 85. They did bump up from 85 to 87%. I see somebody mentioning that in chat. You can see yields decrease. Actually, yields might be up. Hold on, let me see. Yeah, yields are now neutral. They're completely neutral. I mean, yields are essentially neutral here, but the odds of a September cut did increase a little bit, almost 90% now. Yeah, I think I was on Concerta as a kid, which is basically another form of it. I used to pretend to take it and not actually take it just because, you know. All right, guys, so we're at 662s. Like, I'm hyper enough in the morning. I don't need that. You know, if anything, every time I would take it, it would almost calm me down. I would just kind of sit there. Maybe that's what they wanted, you know. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I just train jujitsu. That's a lot of fun. The problem is that, like, it's hard for me to flow roll. It's hard for me to flow roll. I try. You know? It's like I'll flow with somebody and then they'll, like, catch a submission and they'll kind of, like, squeeze on it and then I'm like, hey. And then my adrenaline spikes and then I'm trying to, you know, choke them out now and, like, you know. It just turns into a heavy sparring session right after that. So it just, you know. All right. Anyways, here's the VIX. It's down. You can take a look at yields. Yields is kind of back and forth, but the rate cut odds for next month. Like, look, here's yields. They're completely flat from this report. Nasdaq's elevated slightly, but not that much. Gold is actually spiking up a little bit on this report. The neck feels better today. I do feel better. I can move it now with less pain. Believe it or not, I actually trained yesterday still. But yeah. I did see the Raha incident. I think that kid just messed up his life. Unfortunately. I think Raha just messed up his life. Like, as somebody that live streams, you gotta tune the chat out. You know, insecure people gonna talk smack. They're gonna try to drag you down. You gotta just recognize, like, the real problems are them. Like, they're struggling. They're hurting. And you gotta just tune them out, right? Ignore them. And I think he needs to be able to do that. I think he got riled up from his chat, and then acting crazy from it, and that hurt him now, you know, unfortunately. Anyways, we're sideways. Nasdaq's not really doing much. Again, rate cut odds are up to almost 90%. We're at 87.2%. Yeah, I don't even know what a troll is, bro. What are y'all talking about? I would never troll anybody ever. Of course, not me. You know. Listen, guys. I'm here just to help people. I'm not here for the money at all. You know, I'm just here to help people. I just like teaching, guys. But if you want to check out Top Step, check them out. They are a sponsor of mine. A great way to help support the channel is to check out Top Step. You can learn to day trade. It's $50 a month to get started. Great way to learn. You can get around the PDT rule. Again, they sponsor me, so if you want to check them out, here's the link. I'll put the link up right now. Here it is. Check it out. With love, I just like teaching. I'm just here to help people. But check out my sponsor right now. I appreciate it. Thanks, guys. All right, guys, we're rejecting at 663s right now. We'll see if we hold. All right, so the U.S. is going to revoke authorizations for Intel, SK Hynix, and Samsung to receive American chipmaking equipment in China unless they obtain licenses, according to the Federal Register. So this news came out just now. Yeah, of course I'm not just here because I like helping people. What a ridiculous statement. No offense to you guys. Listen, I want to help y'all. I'm here to make money. Of course I am. I'm not spending 3 hours of my time sitting here out of the kindness of my heart, you know? Like, get out of here. Nobody's doing that. Nobody. Genuinely nobody. If they're telling you they're here out of the kindness of their heart, they're selling you right there. So just be smart. Understand it. You know, it's a reasonable expectation. You know, I can help people and make money at the same time. You know what I mean? That's pretty understandable, I think. Listen, I'm not saying there's nobody. There's probably a very, very small percentage of people. In the very specific niches that might be doing that. It ain't the niche I'm currently in, though. I promise you. It's all love. Let people make their money. That's what we do here, you know. That's what y'all are trying to do here anyway. But let's call a spade, you know. All right, guys. 5 minutes until the top of the hour, 9 a.m. We'll see what happens. Yeah, we got the University of Michigan Consumer Sentiment Report at 10 a.m. today, guys. That might influence things. I don't know how much. The University of Michigan data is not the most accurate report. I thought you were live because we're best friends. Y'all are my internet friends, okay? Y'all are therapeutic. I can rant to you guys about stuff. Y'all won't tell anybody, you know? Why don't you track the major indices? I do. Looking at the NASDAQ right now, I'll watch the SPY and go over what the SPY's doing almost regularly. I look at the Dow sometimes. I'm not really a big Russell, you know, fan. Although the Russell went up yesterday. What's the Russell? It's RTY, right? Yeah, the Russell's been making some moves, I think. Look at the increases in the Russell. But yeah, I track the big indexes, of course. I trade the NASDAQ. Look at it every day. Do you think we're going to drop during September like always? Again, I'm going to say this again, guys. 54% of the time, we drop in September. 54%. So what does that mean? That means 46% of the time, we go up in September. And so it's certainly not always. Like, yes, we could have a September slump. And listen, a 4% differential is significant. That's a big edge. You know, the fact that historically we go down 0.4% more than we go up in September, That's a big edge, right? But it doesn't mean it's always going to happen, and you don't want to look at it like it's always going to happen. You got to understand, we could certainly move up in September. Maybe we don't. It just depends on the year, depends on what's going on, depends on the macroeconomic situation. And we'll see. September, a lot of people are vying for a cut. The odds of a cut are up. Maybe that will kind of save us from the slump in September. Again, a lot of stuff in markets is buy the rumor, sell the news. And so maybe leading into the September meeting on the 17th of September, maybe we get some optimism into rate cuts, potentially. Or maybe we get a nasty labor report next week and the market freaks out and thinks we're going into a recession and the market drops in September. We'll have to wait and see. We'll cover the labor report when it comes out, like we always do. But it's not set in stone yet, the direction the market's going in September. Yeah, well, the Fed's got their 2% goal, and that's good. Mopar for Life says, thanks for the help over the years. My life is changing every day since the first I seen you report on my top stock SoFi at $6. Much love, bro, for the hard work. Hey, thank you, Mopar. I appreciate you, brother. Thank you, sir. Hey, congrats if you're making money, man. Happy for you, dude. Appreciate the love. Thank you. Yeah, SoFi's made some moves, man. Look at SoFi. SoFi up what? SoFi's up 50% since what is this? July? June? Since June. 50% since June for SoFi. Crazy moves. Up to $26 a share right now. So yeah, congrats if you're holding that thing. That's good. Firm. Hey, what's up, Blaze? Gold up to 34.75s. What's up, Sam? Its interest is up from the mid-August numbers, but it's still down so far, I think, in August. Yeah, it was at 264s. I sold United Health the other day. And I honestly, where I got out is basically right where it stopped moving up, which is good. I got really lucky with the United Health trade. I bought United Health at like 240. And like 3 days after I bought it, Warren Buffett comes out saying he's buying it, or Berkshire Hathaway, you know. Again, I'm not a big like, look, I've said this once, I'll say it again. I don't think Warren Buffett is really out here making stock picks at 90-something years old, 96 years old. I just don't think he is. Berkshire might be making stock picks, but I don't think Berkshire's letting Buffett control the company as of now. Not really. I think it's his children, the other advisors, his executives, they're running the company right now. My grandma passed away last year at 97, 96 or 97. You know. Yeah, I don't think Buffett's making big decisions anymore, of course. All right, maybe he is. Again, maybe he is, but I don't think so. But anyways, somebody came out in Burke buying United Health right after I got in it, which really benefited the position, of course. I think Burke was obvious too, or I think United Health was obvious too. It was down big. It was down like 50% since the beginning of the year, maybe, or maybe a little bit longer than that. If you look at it, PE ratio is still very low, which is good. It was at 630s in November of last year. It was at 230s. I think it was just time to buy. And yeah, still holding over 3s. We'll see if it continues up. What else did I buy? Let me see. Yeah, I bought HIMS too at 41s now. It's at almost 45s. I bought PayPal at 68s. It's at 70s. I bought Target at 94s. It's at 97s. I bought Crocs at 75. It's at 86. I believe he's the CEO, but oh yeah, for sure. My grandmother lived a long life. Yeah, Celsius, Pepsi did like a $585 million deal with Celsius. That's why Celsius is up today. Pepsi increased their stake in Celsius, is what this is, right? Celsius jumping because Pepsi increased their stake to 585 million. I think it was that number. I might be wrong. And thank you, Crypto. Appreciate it. It's not that stocks didn't care. Markets are up a little bit. It's just that... Yeah, that's right. The results for PCE were flat. Completely flat. They were flat. Again, give me a follow on x.com at Beginner Trades. Again, we cover all this stuff live as soon as it happens. So we cover literally everything live as soon as it happens. PCE data as soon as it drops, all this stuff. So at Beginner Trades, BEGINNERTRADES at Beginner Trades. Again, I think the win in this PCE report is that it opens the door to rate cuts more. You know, inflation's not as elevated in PCE, which is the Fed's preferred inflation gauge. The Fed looks at PCE. CPI can be relevant too, and we have CPI before the next Fed meeting, but I think it's a little bit too close to the Fed meeting to really influence their decision there that quickly. So I think this PCE report is good, of course. Market is basically chopped though. Gold's still pushing up. Gold at 34.78 right now. So gold is making a move here. Look at this. Hey, thank you guys. Appreciate it. Not from New York. Yeah, I mean, I'm from Louisiana. I live in Texas, though. I love Baton Rouge. But I don't want to live there. Not anymore. I grew up there, you know. But miss my food, you know. But, go Tigers. But, yeah, I don't want to live there. All right, so 69% think the market's moving up. 31% think the market's moving down today. So it's basically 70-30. I like Canada. I've lived in Canada before. My stepdad was Canadian. And so I lived up there for a while. I used to take a Greyhound bus from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, all the way up to Canada. It would take days on a Greyhound bus. It was cool though. I got to see the world, you know, see the country. I mean, I'm married with kids now, Fate. When I was young, I did. All right, we're up to the 664s. Still holding here. That 650 level holding strong. Gold's been moving up pretty consistently. Inflation report seems to be boosting gold a little bit. Spencer Rattler. I don't know, man. I want him to do well. I remember watching him in high school on those documentaries. Like, I want Spencer Rattler to do well. I'm a Saints fan. I want the Saints to win. I don't know. I hope he does. I hope he can do it. I really do. I'm not the most optimistic, though, but I hope he can do it. Yeah, he's getting up there, Eric, for sure. I either want the Bengals or the Saints to win. Ever since Burrow went to the Bengals, I'm a Bengals fan. I'm rooting for him, you know. But we'll see. Yeah, Femi. I'm not gonna say they're the Aints again, but disappointing years. That's all I'll say. LSU's been doing all right. You know, I watch LSU too, but yeah, Josh Allen, Jim. Yeah. Chiefs fans. I can't root for the Chiefs. They're too good. You know, at a certain point, I get tired of the Chiefs winning. You know, you gotta let somebody else win sometimes. You know, listen. I like the Chiefs. You know? I think Mahomes is good, very good. You know, I got my crawfish mug today. Speaking about the Saints. Yeah. Do you watch hockey at all? No, not really. I used to. I played Pee Wee hockey as a kid. I was terrible at it in hindsight. But I played a little bit of it. And so I watched hockey when I was young, but I never got into it. I watch baseball, football, MMA a lot. You know, baseball, football, MMA mostly. I don't really watch any other sports. I watch basketball a little bit. I do watch a little basketball. The NBA specifically, pro basketball. But those four, that's basically it. I don't watch any other sports outside of that. Yeah, I saw the Cowboys documentary. It was good. All right, so the Brazilian president Lula says there's no immediate plans to match U.S. tariffs on Brazilian goods as the process will require time. So that just came in. Again, traders still expecting 87% odds of a rate cut next month. There's still 87% odds. The president said the court should defer to him on the calls for the Fed's Cook firing. According to a Federal Register, the U.S. is furthering extending exclusions under the 301 probe into China and technology transfer, IP, and innovation in November 29th, according to the Federal Register. And again, I talked about the U.S. is revoking authorizations for Intel, SK Hynix, and Samsung to receive American chip-making equipment in China unless they obtain licenses. Intel moving on this? It's down a little bit, but I think it's Friday, guys. Y'all just be careful. Gold had a little pullback. Nasdaq still chopping sideways leading into the opening bell in 20 minutes. So you don't hoop? I'm 5'10", bro. And so, I mean, look. I like basketball. I like playing basketball, too. But I'm not the best at it, you know? I was better at baseball. Yeah. John, do you think AI will take over trading one day, make it harder and harder for us to win? I think there'll be pulls and pushes. I think, you know, we'll get algorithms that make it really easy to make money. And then everybody will get them, and so that'll make it harder to make money. And then we'll come out with new technology that makes it easier to make money. And then everybody will get those, and then it'll make it harder to make money. I think there'll be pulls and pushes for it, most likely. If you're looking at, like, AI and what that effect is on trading, specifically like manual trading. I think things are going to go more algorithmic, but eventually that's going to get adopted by a lot of people, and it already starting to. So oh, I'd love to come watch the Blue Jays, watch Vlad hit some homers. I like the Blue Jays. Bichette, Vlad, you know. MMA is so barbaric. I prefer boxing. Boxing is far more dangerous than MMA. You know why boxing is far more dangerous? It's because in MMA, somebody gets hit. They get concussed. That's it. The fight's over. They stop the fight. You know, one drop, one KO, that's it. In boxing, they give you 10 seconds to stand up. You can stand up in 10 seconds. You get concussed 30 seconds later. Again. Right? Even statistically, in terms of like actual fatalities in boxing are much higher than MMA. Of course, it's a much older sport, but still. Boxing, in terms of causing CTE, as well as dangers, just dangers, net dangers of it, much worse than MMA. Far worse, you know. Yeah, automation is the future for sure of trading, I think. All right, gold testing highs of the day again. It's up to 34.77s. Do you think we will have an aggressive push in either direction today when more news drops in 15 minutes, or will it be a gradual push in one direction, particularly for gold? What news drops in 15 minutes? I mean, the opening bell's in 15 minutes. I don't know if we have any big catalyst until Michigan data at 10 a.m., but even that might not move things. We'll see. Yeah, we're not really doing anything right now, so it's hard to trade this. I would trade it. I'd rather wait for the volatility the open brings versus trading this right now. Big green. Yeah, again, vote on the... which way do you guys think the market's going to go in the first 5 minutes after the bell? You think it's going to go up or down? Let me know. We got 15 minutes left. All right, so Cook's lawyer calls the new allegations a, quote, obvious smear campaign. Again, Brazil's Lula says, I'm in no rush to reciprocate U.S. tariffs on Brazilian goods. Process will take some time. I want to negotiate with the United States, she says. Or... he says, sorry. Yeah, we got the Michigan data in 45 minutes. Again, we're flat, though, completely flat in markets. It's Friday. Y'all just be careful. Yeah, I'm not going to trade the first 5 minutes anyway. don't think the market closes at 1 today, does it? Hold on, let me check. Yeah, markets do close early today, the day before Labor Day. Market hours. This Friday, it closes at 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Central. Who knew? I guess the guy in the chat did. Appreciate it. Yeah, that's what I expected, Roz. That's what I expected. But instead, you know, I got the Dos Equis guy show up when I searched for it. So. Alright, so we rejected at this level at 663. Look at this. We're almost down to 652s. Sophisticated chat. Top 3 most sophisticated ever. Yeah, if I had to describe the chat as one thing, you know, I think it would be sophisticated. You know. I think they breathe sophistication here. Alright, we're coming down. We're at 655s. Alright, guys. Let's see if the market opens up a little bit. We've been flat since PCE data. We moved up a little bit. I think the market interpreted as more optimistic for rate cuts in September now that we were basically flat. We'll see what we get here, but we're not doing anything. It's hard to make money in this. I think I'm green on the day. I think I had a couple green trades earlier this morning. TradingView says it closes in 7 hours. Let me check. AI can be wrong sometimes. Let me confirm this. Okay, I don't think the market closes early today, actually. I think I'm wrong. Y'all are smart, I'm dumb. Y'all are very good looking and I'm not attractive. Whatever the Happy Gilmore quote is. I can't remember it. But I don't think it closes early today. Yeah, I don't think we close early today. I don't see any scheduled close. I could be wrong, chat, you know. Let me yell at AI real quick. I'm gonna say please though, so it doesn't turn on me. FINRA. Let's Google this. Hold on. Kind of shows Gemini's better than Chat GPT here. You ask Chat GPT, it'll tell you the market closed today, early. You ask Gemini, it says it doesn't. Yeah, it's not an early close today. Chat GPT is just not accurate half the time. So that's why I said Gemini's better. Gemini's genuinely better. Yeah, the issue is I'm like, hey, Chat GPT, does the market close early today? And it's like, yep, it does. 1 p.m. close. And then I go back to it. I'm like, hey, please confirm this. Because when I'm looking this up, I'm showing it doesn't close early today. Immediately responds with, yep, I confirmed it. FINRA says we close early today. And then I have to literally take a screenshot of Gemini that says, no, today is not the day before Labor Day. Labor Day is on Monday. The day before Labor Day is on a Sunday. And the market's not open then anyway. You're wrong. And then it says, oh, yep, I checked. You're right. You know, come on now. GPT-5 is supposed to be better. What happened there? What happened? Yeah, ChatGPT-5 thinks it's the greatest. Top 3 dudes in the stock market? Hey, thank you, man. Yeah, the problem is it's confidently wrong, is the issue. It'll get better, though, guys. It'll get better. Within 5 years, it's going to be better. Again, I genuinely still think, with everything I just said, that AI is going to fundamentally change the world within 15 years. And you could argue there's nuance, but you could argue it already has, and it will much sooner than that. But again, I think the next step is robots. I think AI is going to grow and get better and better over the next 5 years. I think they're going to start implanting them into robots, actual like humanoid robots. And I think within like a period of time, I don't know, maybe 10, 15 years, those humanoid robots are going to become closer and closer to looking like us. And within a certain period of time, they're going to become indistinguishable. I think when that happens, people are going to have no need to leave their house. They're going to have no need to go out and find, you know, relationships with others. It's going to kind of be like that movie Her. I think that movie Her is probably kind of accurate. I think we're almost there now, and I think we're probably seeing signs of that already. And that might influence, you know, birth rates. It might influence a lot of different things. Or maybe none of this happens. I don't know. That's the risks, I think, right now. It doesn't mean it's going to happen, though. I don't think that's better. I think that's worse. But again, I think at this point in time, most of the billionaires of the world understand that AI is the next big technology of the future, and so they're pouring money into it right now. It's a race, and we'll see who wins. All right, guys, we got 5 minutes at the opening bell. We'll see what it does. All right, the India chief economic advisor sees growth momentum continuing into quarter 3 with some impact of tariff-related uncertainties. We do see that going on right now. Yeah, I mean, maybe we're in a simulation anyway, so it doesn't matter. Simulation theory is taking off a lot. And I get it. It's an interesting theory. But I think with the latest advancements in AI, it becomes more plausible. Nvidia up. Look at Nvidia spike here. Nvidia spiking. Nasdaq starting to test the top of this range. It's too close to the bell for me to get involved here. But we'll see what happens. You know, one of the big AI systems created a simulation in a simulation already. All right, here we go. We got 3 minutes left. All right, we're at 664s. Let's see if we hold support here. This previous level. 2 minutes left. Where's Bitcoin? Bitcoin hasn't really moved from the PCE inflation data. Where's Tesla at? Tesla green. 340s. A lot of stuff is red. Nvidia came right back down, so the bull move didn't hold. All right, guys, we got a minute and a half left. Google up to 211s right now. Google moving up. That looks good. You might be a little delayed on the stream, Femi. Hit the live button. I understand her was digital. What I'm saying is that just like her influenced his relationship making capabilities, so will AI in the future. That's what I'm talking about in terms of like accuracy with that movie versus reality. I think it's going to influence relationships and people's desire to form relationships. Probably. All right, guys, we got 20 seconds. 20 seconds. All right, here's the bell. Again, remember, hit the live button next to the play button. Put it in 2x speed if you need to. It'll keep you up to date. Here's the bell. All right, there's the open. NASDAQ bouncing up a little bit. Might have a delayed response to PCE. It doesn't mean anything, though. You got to watch Nvidia here. Apple spiking up at the open. Nvidia moving down, though. Yeah, but that's the fear, Fibby, for sure. I think, you know. I don't want what I just said to happen. That's I think the biggest risks right now is that. Alright, we're down to 640 in the NASDAQ at the opening bell. Still kind of quiet range, though. Apple's retraced. Nvidia's retraced on the upside. Alright, so we're bouncing back up again. Very sideways. See some downward pressure here. I gotta wait at least 4 or 5 minutes to trade first, though. Big retracement to the downside, or to the upside again. It depends on if Nvidia keeps falling. Apple's moving up though, right? But Nvidia's falling, so we have two counter moves here. One on Nvidia on the downside of the open, Apple on the upside, and so the Nasdaq's basically right in the middle, fighting between those two big weighted stocks. Let's see if we can get anything. It's still too early for me to trade though. All right, Nasdaq making a push back up. Looks like Apple got bumped back down though. This might push down now. Depends on if Nvidia keeps falling. You never know. Not an investment professional. Don't copy me. Google moving up at the opening bell too. So is Tesla. I think risks in tech stocks are just overvaluations. All right, we're 2.5 minutes into the bell. Very quiet. Very quiet. Yeah, gold's pushing. This looks bearish to me, but again, I don't know. Well, top 3, I don't know traders in the world, I guess. Market's moving down now. Let's see if it holds at 650 if it bounces back there. 648. 620 is a level 2 below us. Remember, holiday weekend, markets close Monday. So, understand markets are going to be closed. Ugh. Yeah, but I don't think this move is big enough to say I told you so yet, follow. This move is pretty small. This is pretty neutral. We're still net green from PCE as we speak right now. And so, you know, this is a very small range. It's not like the market's crashing down at the open. Yeah, I mean, we're still green from PCE. Now, especially. Friday, the market might chop all day. Yeah, we rejected right here at that 648 level. If we get down to 620, we'll make a move. But again, this is too choppy for me to really attack. Mostly driven by Nvidia falling down a little bit, but it's still a pretty small move, all things considered. Hey, nice, Corey. Okay. Yeah, I mean, follow the rabbit. I'm just gonna boot you out of here, dude. You're too emotional, man. You're way too emotional. Like, the NASDAQ hasn't moved down nearly enough to be screaming victory. You said the market was gonna crash at the opening bell. We are down fraction of a percent, sir, at the open. Doesn't mean we're not going to keep dropping, but you're just way too emotional here, dude. I don't know how young you are, but you seem pretty emotional. You don't need the validation. You don't need me to say, hey, good job. The only thing I really say with any certainty is that I don't know what's going to happen. But again, in terms of where PCE came out, we're right here. PCE came out here. We are above that now. Maybe we break below it, but we're kind of net flat right now from PCE, sir. So, Google's pushing up right now. A lot of stuff's moving back up. Yeah, good day to him. It's just too emotional. The big question is whether Google bounces right now. Google's one of the reasons we're moving up. But if Google doesn't hold and starts to turn, we could have some bearishness. Let's see if 605 holds. Big retracement. I'm going to short this now, see if we fill some of the gap to the downside. I'll add a little bit to it. There we go. A big retracement candle, but I want to give it some time. There we go. That's nice. See if we can cover this. Alright, so far so good. We filled about half of the gap, but we're tracing fast too, but doesn't mean we're not going to come back down. Hey, thank you, Christoph. Appreciate it, bro. Thank you, sir. Yeah, it kind of goes to show, like, there's a lesson in here somewhere. And I think the lesson is, like, you'll hear people... You'll sometimes see big influencers do this, too. Right? They'll tell you the market's going to brutally crash. Right? Like, brutally crash. And then the market rips up. Right? Kind of the same thing. Whoever said PCE market was going to crash during the PCE release, right? And then the market moves down a tiny percentage and they're like, see, I told you. And it's like, nah, I don't know. Like, a crash is a crash. The market is still pretty flat from everything. It could certainly keep dropping. It could certainly keep dropping. But sometimes people are desperate to be right and they end up kind of latching onto things. And maybe I'm like that too, I don't know. I'm sure I am sometimes. But either way, this is mostly Nvidia. And this morning we did have some chip news come out about Alibaba. Baba's up this morning on this news. I think we got to watch like 600 right here. I think 600 right here. Psychological level. Let's see if we bounce. Yeah, this move is too early. And we're green on the day. We've been shorting this. But let me see if there's any catalysts that come out too. Alright, so the India chief economic advisor says additional tariff imposed by the US on India could be short-lived. Again, Wall Street Journal reports Alibaba develops new AI chip. That's what's part of the reason the market's down. The imbalance was mostly positive. And it's Friday. I'll look for a short at 621s if we get up there. We got up to 621s, I'll short. Gold up to 3480s. The gold's getting close to all-time highs. It's not quite there yet. Bitcoin's crashing down here. And sometimes these are buy the rumor, sell the news events. Alibaba repurchased 667,000 shares for about 10 million. The question here right now, guys, in markets is what does Nvidia do? Nvidia's been trending down since the opening bell. Here's Nvidia on the top middle. Does Nvidia rebound back up here? Is the question. That's going to influence the NASDAQ. It's the single most heavily weighted stock in everything. Right, there's 621s. We're going to short this. There we go. Hold it break even now. Short. All right, that's my first red trade of the day, and we lost like not anything. Might keep going down, but we'll give it a second to try. I think you're probably short into this though. I'm still short biased here. We filled the gap back to the upside. At least some of it. A lot of this is dependent on Nvidia, Google. Maybe I should have stepped in my short. I got stopped out barely up here, but that's all right. Short idea would have worked. Was Rabbit right? Rabbit said we would crash during the PCE release. And then when we didn't crash from PCE, he said we'd crash at the opening bell. Whether he's right depends on whether you think this is a crash. It doesn't look like a crash to me. It just seems like a red open. But I don't know. I mean, it's subjective. He got banned not because he was right or wrong, because he was too emotional about being right, you know? Yeah, he's still a little bit too salty. Crashiest? Definitely the crashiest ever. I'll tell you this though, Nvidia under 175 isn't good. It's not good. Let's see if it holds under 175, but it's not good. And this is why I'm trying to say, like, sometimes things are buy the rumor, sell the news in markets. Another thing that you'll see is like sometimes we'll have news catalysts that come out in pre-market and the market might not move very much, but then when that liquidity starts at the opening bell, that's when we could see some of these moves. So we're green on the day. We've only had one losing trade so far, and it was very, very small. We basically got stopped out break even, and so we're gonna wait now though. Nvidia's starting to make a bounce back up. It's got a double or triple bottom here at about 174s. But I'm gonna wait. France and Germany are going to provide additional air defense overseas. And there's 580s. I was thinking about buying it, but I don't want to buy a bearish trend here. I'm just trying to find good moments to trade. Oh, we got the Michigan consumer sentiment data. I completely forgot about that. Hold on. Completely forgot. Nvidia's breaking down again. I'm going to start buying into some of these support levels at 550. We can pull back down there, but I don't know if we're going to. Chicago PMI came out at 41.5 versus 46 expected. Weaker than expected for Chicago PMI, noticeably weaker. So I think this might be moving markets down. Again, Chicago PMI just dropped. 41.5 versus 46.6 expected here. Chicago PMI weaker than expected. Much weaker than expected. That could be pushing things down. Again, I might buy it right here, though. The problem is, what do you think Michigan data is going to show up as? All right, I'm going to try buying this. This is my first long of the day, I think. See if we retrace back up. But the Michigan data wasn't good. But we'll try to add a little bit to this. Maybe 3. And let's see if we pop back up. There we go. Flat, almost green. Let's see if we can hold up here. We got a cushion on the day, so I can let this work a little bit. I don't want to sit in it too long, though. Reduce my size a little bit up here. Oh, here, let me show you. We're close to flat, but trying to give it time to retrace back up there. It looks like it wants to. If we move up now. There we go. We took a piece off there. About 40 ticks right now, 40, 50 ticks. We'll take the rest off right there. Yeah, the PMI was weak for Chicago. PMI 41.5 versus 46 expected. Yeah, that's manufacturing. PMI is the Purchasing Managers Index. Look at Nvidia. This is mostly driven by Nvidia. That Nvidia had the Alibaba news come out this morning that said that they are Alibaba's producing their own in-house chips to compete with Nvidia. They're still a long ways out though, but I think the market's probably reacting to that. We got Michigan consumer sentiment at 10 a.m. though. Yeah. The question is, where do we stop? How long? Yeah, we got 10 minutes left. We'll see what the Michigan data shows. Baba up to 130s right now. So Baba strength and Nvidia weakness is what I think the story is. Bitcoin down pretty significantly. It's down to 109s. At 109.7 in Bitcoin futures. We can maybe start to buy. I'm gonna switch accounts here and try to build up some profit on maybe a different one. Watch 525s here though. Let's see if we can hold. There's 525 bounce. Baba's starting to head down a little bit. Gold's still popping up. Let's see if gold can break 3,500s today. Yeah, no, that's really weak manufacturing PMI. So what's bumping the market down is manufacturing PMI for sure. This data came out at 45 right here. And you can see this big red candle. We were mostly flat, and then Chicago PMI came out here and bumped us back down. Although we're starting to climb back up. You can see Nvidia starting to climb back up, and Baba showing some weakness down. Gold, steady pushing up despite all this stuff. Yeah, again, you know how it is. People call a crash if we drop 1%. They're saying that, you know, they're like, see, I told you. That's how market goes. Market wants validation. It's all good. That's how market is, you know. People are saying, some people are saying the PCE data was hot. It wasn't. It was flat, in my opinion, right? Look, maybe we do crash. I'm not saying we don't. All I'm saying is don't say I told you so after a 1% drop, you know. Google up. Looks like a rotation. Yeah, I think people are fearful. Again, like I said this morning at the open, I think people are fearful of overvaluations. And I think a lot of this drop is due from Nvidia. The Alibaba news wasn't good for Nvidia. I think that's what this is. They might be getting baked into Michigan consumer sentiment, which can be negative too. Michigan tends to have exaggerated numbers a lot of the time. They're not the most accurate report, and a lot of the time it's negative. But we'll see. We'll see this time. Maybe we'll have positive consumer sentiment. Yeah, it was as expected, but it didn't really move up month to month either, though, which is good, I think. Yeah, it could be heading into September. Very possible. But it's not anything yet, guys. It's Friday, you know. We ain't got no job. No, it's Friday. A lot of the time the market is choppy on Friday. So. All right, look at Baba pop up, and the Nasdaq does not like it. Look at this. And Baba just broke highs of the day, up to 131s now. Again, the Michigan data drops in 6 minutes. If you can't laugh at the market, you'll cry. Yeah. Oh, I love the movie Friday. I like Next Friday as well. I like all of them. They're all good. But Friday's got a special place in my heart. It's a movie I watched growing up a lot, you know. They should have kept Chris Tucker, but I like Day Day as well. All right, we're at 550s. Let's see if we hold. All right, guys, Michigan data in 5 minutes. Yeah, but I mean, Nvidia's got a pretty big head start, you know, but China's a big market for chips. And so I'm kind of torn on this catalyst. I think Nvidia's got a pretty big head start here. You know, even Alibaba said that. Alibaba basically said we're a long way out from being able to produce the technology that Nvidia has, is essentially what they said this morning. But we will see. We will see. Again, markets are certainly interpreting it as negative, and they have been since this morning. Michigan data releases in about 4 minutes. Wasn't Tucker working on the Rush Hour movie? From my memory, I think Chris Tucker actually had moral reasoning for not wanting to do Friday 2, next Friday. If I remember correctly, it's something like that. I might be wrong though. All right, Nasdaq just cracked lows. I'm gonna cry if Nvidia doesn't go to 185. Yeah, Nvidia goes up and down though. So does the Nasdaq. I mean, you gotta look at the Nasdaq and see what we've done over the last 3 months. Like, you zoom out on the Nasdaq here, like, look. Here's the Nasdaq today. Definitely a red open. But if you look at an hourly chart, this is the move today. You know? Is it red? Absolutely. Is it the end of the world crash? No. It could be. Maybe it's the start of one. I don't know. Possible. Yeah, PCE came out at 8:30. Yeah, that's why I think I read the history of Friday and somewhere, and I saw that. So yeah, I was pretty sure that's why Tucker didn't get involved. Although Smokey was a great character. He was a great character. I wish he stayed around. But again, Day Day was funny too. I think Day Day was arguably funnier in some ways. Alright, now we're at 23 fives. We have 2 minutes left. Alright guys, so listen, consumer sentiment today is expected at 58.6. 58.6% consumer sentiment. Last time it came in at 61.7. 1 year inflation expectations 4.9. 5-year inflation expectations 3.9 is what's expected today. So we'll see if it shows up. We got a minute left. All right, guys, here we go. We got 1 minute left. Again, 1 year inflation expectations expected at 4.9%. 5-year expected at 3.9%. Again, 30 seconds. Consumer sentiment again, guys, expected at 58.6. Again, previously it was 61.7. 61.7. All right, guys, here we go. Here's the data in 10 seconds. 10 seconds for the data. And here's the release. Okay, guys, so University of Michigan consumer sentiment data is now out. It showed up. Hold on, let me wait for it. We got a little delay. Okay, it came in at 4.8% for 1 year inflation expectations. Consumer sentiment came in at 58.2 versus 58.6. 58.2 versus 58.6. Weaker than expected, slightly weaker. Although the market's actually pushing up a little bit. Maybe it means earlier rate cuts. 1 year inflation expectations 4.8 versus 4.9%. 4.8 4.8 versus expected 4.9%. 5-year showed up at what? 3.5 versus 3.9 expected. So a little bit lower than expected inflation expectations. Lower than expected inflation expectations. That might be making the market react positively. All right, 58.2 versus 58.6 expected. 1 year inflation 4.8 versus 4.9. 5-year 3.5 versus 3.9. So a little bit better inflation expectations coming out here. Slightly better. Slightly better. Markets, yeah, again, these numbers might not move markets much. But we'll see. We'll see. Yeah, here's the Nvidia chart. Nvidia's starting to rebound back up, and Nasdaq has bounced back up some, but we definitely had a red open. It's not a crash. It's not, the end of the world pullback, but it is a red open. We'll see what the market does for the rest of the day. Remember, it's a long weekend, so maybe we're going to have volatility leading into the rest of the day. Nvidia at 175 even right now, basically. Yeah, gold's still pushing up. Gold might break 3,500s right now. So gold's still moving up heavy. And again, give me a follow if you haven't already. We do this live every day. We post all the data here. So give me a follow at Beginner Trades. At Beginner Trades. Yeah, all good, Dan. Yeah, appreciate the love, guys. Hope you guys are doing good today. Here's a fun metric. We got 20,000 views for today's stream. 20,000 here. Cheers to you guys, man. That's a good number. 20K. I appreciate it. I appreciate it, guys. Thanks so much for joining the stream. Hey, thank you, Rusty. Hey, later, Ab. Or Abe. Yeah, I think people realize, listen, you want a one-stop shop. We cover all this stuff. Next week, we got more stuff coming out next week, guys. More stuff. Next week we got durable goods. Or no, I'm sorry. That was this week. Next week, we got JOLTS on Wednesday. ISM manufacturing on Tuesday. We've got ADP non-farm employment, jobless claims on Thursday. Trade deficit data, ISM services data on Thursday. Friday, we got another labor report coming out. So a lot of stuff coming out. Weaker consumer sentiment data, dragging markets down here. Dragging markets down. Yeah. Hey, thank you. Appreciate it, guys. Appreciate all the love. Got a lot of supporters here. I appreciate you guys. It goes to show you can tell people you're the top 3 worst ever, that you have no idea what you're talking about half the time, and still grow on YouTube. I appreciate the love, guys. Thanks so much. If you want to check out my sponsor, check them out. Top Step. Great way to learn how to day trade. Most day traders lose money. We actually ended up making a couple $100 today in the first account we were trading on. If you look at some of these trades, we're up about 190, I think, right now. You can kind of see some of these trades come in. Mostly short. But up about 190. I'll take it. Green is good. This is Top Step funded account. You can check it out if you want to help support the channel. There's no PDT in futures. Great way to learn how to day trade. Most day traders lose money. And so it's a great way to learn. Great way to learn. If you want to check it out, I'll put the link up. I appreciate the love. Thanks so much. And yeah, remember, Monday the market's closed. I'm going to sleep in. I'm looking genuinely forward to it. But the NASDAQ is falling down. NASDAQ is falling down. Here's the link. The guy said the market was going to crash. And again, he didn't get banned because he was right or wrong. He got banned because he started to get weird and emotional and disrespectful. And again, whether you're right or wrong, guys, it doesn't matter. The only thing I'm ever absolute about is I have no idea what the market's going to do. No idea. But just be respectful. Like, you don't need to be right on the internet. Nobody cares. Make your money if you can make it. But it doesn't matter. You know, it's all good. It's all love. I appreciate you guys being here. Y'all have a great day. And I'm just responding to comments right now. Only a Sith deals in absolutes? That's right. Power of 3? Yeah. Friday brings out the weirdness, maybe. President fired the stats person, so we don't know if he's cooking the books now. I mean, we'll see with this labor report. This labor report's big and important. We'll see with this labor report. The labor report's massive. Yeah, you got to be reactionary, not predictive. You know, especially with the opening bell. Nobody freaking knows. You got a 50-50 shot of being right, though. So, nobody knows what we're going to do at the opening bell. It's a chill place and we can watch data together and get good info from you. Hey, thank you, Levi. I appreciate you, bro. Thank you, sir. Let's see if the market holds. I've run out of support levels that I've drawn over the last few weeks. I got to clear some of these out. They're getting a little bit too consolidated here. Let's see if 460 holds, though. Under this, I got to draw some more. I would look at like maybe 425. All right, gold and silver. Yeah, gold's pumping up today, almost at 3,500. And I think it wants 3,500 right now. You are getting famous because of your honesty and fatherly advice. Call me Papa John. That's my name going forward. Papa John, the cook of Wall Street. Everybody says this looks like a kitchen. You know, we got the cook of Wall Street right here. That's it. That's my new name. Y'all never hear the end of it. I'm gonna get out of here. Y'all be safe. Markets break it down though. Weak for sure. Yeah, y'all be safe. Remember all this stuff on screen. I can't guarantee anything. I'm not an investment professional. I might have no idea what I'm talking about, and some of you will probably say that's true. Good luck. Y'all be safe. Have a great day. Remember, Monday market's closed. Monday the market's closed.